Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Insol Crypt. Your podcast host from Firepower Capital are Lon Jacobson and myself, Stella Millis. We took a short break from our Insolvency Lawyer series, but we're happy to start back up again. And with us today is Maurice Fleming. Very happy to have him. Maurice is a partner with Fogler Rubinoff, and Maurice is not only experienced in all aspects of restructuring and insolvency law, but brings with him a wealth of expertise in transactional expertise for domestic and cross-border situations. But Alain, I'll let you kick it off with Maurice. And Maurice, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you, Stella. Maurice, thanks for joining us. Maurice, if you've seen these, and I think you said you hadn't, so that's great. I always like to start off with the question of how you got into this world. I mean, it's a unique one. I always joke that I want to meet everyone who gets the Insolvency Insider email on a weekly basis, because when I get it, I look forward to it. But I think people, might not view the world through the same lens as us folks who love this world. So tell me how you originally got connected into this insolvency space.
Yeah, it's interesting because I really did not have a lifelong desire to be a lawyer. Really wanted to go to business school when coming through university, and I got into. But before I went to university, I did a year training at Royal Bank as a management trainee, and decided I didn't want to be a banker after that year. Went to university, got into the biz school at Western, but also got into the law school same year. Went to law, just thinking I could cover my bases, but didn't really want to be a lawyer. But that fast forwarded through law school into articling positions, and I thought I wanted to use my banking experience, so I applied at Bay Street firms that had banking groups, and I thought, I could translate the business experience into business law. Ended up at a firm that no longer exists by name anymore, but it's part of Gowlings, which used to be called Strathy, Archibald, and Seagram. But at the time, everybody who did banking work, in other words, transactional work, and we had one bank as a client, it was CIBC at the time, you also did the collection side. So if you did the loan and the loan went bad, you would collect it. And that has changed radically now in many ways, also in terms of the statutory environment for that type of thing. But you sort of, when you did banking law, you did collections, and I had an equal number of collection receivership files on my desk as I had financing transactions. So that's really how I got into it. But as time has evolved, the firms have really, the insolvency regime has changed many times, and a lot of times you have a huge influx of commercial litigators that really now dominate the insolvency profession, and the dual purpose lawyers like myself that did financing work and the collection side for what used to be private receiverships, not court-appointed receiverships, have now pretty much had to pick one or the other. And I'm one of the few that has actually been able to keep it up.
And do you think that the mindset of the insolvency work helps in the more traditional M&A work? I mean, you're always looking for, the downside risk, I guess. So I would imagine there's something at play with the mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Insolvency is a little different. I mean, if you go to a business person looking to recruit in a business, and you say, well, this person was a lawyer, there's a shelf life for lawyers, because lawyers are really trained to seek as the holy grail zero risk in terms of doing deals and doing a whole bunch of things. The quest for zero risk doesn't really exist in insolvency law. So it's actually this niche of practice that I really like, because I don't like telling clients day in, day out about why they can't do deals or why they can't sign that agreement. And the business people get frustrated too. So in-house counsel will tell you that, if you've been a lawyer for too long, you cannot transition yourself into a business person, because you've spent the first 10 years of your practice telling people why they can't do deals with a 2% risk tolerance. And all of a sudden you're in an environment where risk embracing can be over 50%. And a lot of people can't transition from that. It's just a very hard thing to do. Insolvency is an exception to that. Sometimes with the ways insolvency, the statutes have evolved, the cross-border work, bringing in some concepts from the bankruptcy code in the United States, some other concepts for recognition of foreign orders, that sort of thing. You've got to think outside the box as everything changes and as the decisions come out. And you have to think in terms of not what is the least amount of risk, but what is the best possible outcome, even if that embraces risk. So a lot of the business people in distressed M&A like lawyers that can actually tell them how to do a deal, not how not to do a deal.
Don't I know it? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
to me, that is the difference between a good lawyer and a bad lawyer, from my perspective. You specifically used the word evolution when talking about the insolvency space. I want to ask you specifically, what has been the most interesting component of that evolution that has shifted your day-to-day quote unquote job as it relates to the insolvency space?
Yeah, my day-to-day is a whole bunch of different things. So if I'm doing a straight transactional file without an insolvency side, I'm a very different lawyer than if I'm in a restructuring file. And I'm a very different lawyer if I'm on for a creditor as opposed to being on for a restructuring debtor. So evolution in Canadian insolvency law is really the embracing of DIP financing. That was the big change that was brought up, embraced in the many changes to the statute, but it's an American concept that has really been fundamental to the Canadian case law and jurisprudence in terms of allowing real-time litigation to fix companies in a way that was not constrained by the old slow plodding course of litigation under the rules. Now we have cluck, we have real-time litigation, we have a whole bunch of things happening, but also we have a shift from creditor side remedies, which was really dominant in the 90s, to debtor side remedies and the embracement of DIP and private equity that have come in. And actually the exit too of the big five banks from high risk lending in DIP loans and other types of financing. We have the near banks now, like FIAR, like a bunch of other creditors that I act for, and private equity.
Like firepower.
Firepower. I was gonna say that.
Come on, Maurice.
I got
right there.
I actually have another file with someone that sounds like you, but anyway. But it's an ongoing file. I was just doing it just now, actually. But so anyway, you distracted me. But at the end of the day, the biggest evolution has really been how Canadian legislation, Canadian lawyers, Canadian judges, the commercial list, and the commercial list has started in Toronto and spread across the country with the assistance of the amendments to litigation, have embraced foreign concepts of restructuring in Canadian practice, but have rejected those changes which don't work.
Oh, that's great. So Maurice, right now, I think we're entering another evolution, right? And I think a lot of people are calling this the calm before the storm. Do you see, in light of all the government bailouts from the pandemic, and how do you see insolvency law a little bit sort of evolving under all this, like with new case law precedents being established or new workouts? Or I think you're having to sort of advise your clients a little bit differently in light of the current circumstances. How do you see that shaping out?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see, the stimulus coming out of the Fed, which is the biggest central bank in the world. And as long as that stimulus continues to flow, there's going to be surprising strength, not just in stocks, but also in terms of segments of businesses. So there are winning segments and losing segments of businesses around the world. But in Canada, we also have considerable stimulus from our current government. A lot of it's borrowed money that's going to come back and haunt us. But at the end of the day, there is that stimulus in Canada that's saving a lot of businesses. Unfortunately, if you're a restaurant, it's still a really bad really bad deployment of capital to be in the restaurant business. It always has been, to the point where they're almost they can't borrow money from Skid banks. So there are segments that have always been rough for borrowed money that are going to continue to be rough, but it's even worse now that they don't have any clients coming in. But I think we're going to see a lot of strength in auto as there's a bounce back. There's I think there's considerable strength in Canada and IT. Real estate continues to just truck along. There's some commercial real estate issues in Canada. I think in our firm, we have quite a few commercial landlords. I think there's going to be some challenges with some of the funds that focus on commercial real estate. But by and large, I don't think we're going to get the wave of insolvencies that we thought 6 months ago that we're going to hit. I think there's going to be a considerable amount of capital for near banks that come into play that recognize that with this type of stimulus on both sides of the border, that those are opportunities with low cost money. So in a low cost environment, lenders like yourself and other near bank lenders can actually charge for high risk loans where the circumstances merit it. They can charge prime plus 5, prime plus 8 and get it even in a zero interest environment. And the recipients are quite happy to get it. So I think that's going to continue through 2021 as long as the stimulus continues. Now there's going to be the piper to be paid in 2022, 2023, 2024. Yeah, but I think 2021 is, I don't know. I just the amount of stimulus out there. I think for now it's going to be just moving the chairs on the deck of the Titanic at this point.
So
for a long time. It's going to be a long journey.
I want to shift gears. I want to move to some storytelling. Let's
you love this one, don't you, Alon? You'll love this one.
I want to hear about the most interesting case that you can tell me about. We've heard some interesting cases in the past from some other lawyers. This is always the fun one for me. Is there one that kind of sticks in your mind throughout your career?
Well, I've got two, and it's mainly because I try and keep my clients out of court. If I keep my clients out of court, it's successful. If I get them into court, it has to be for a reason. So I've had a file that really started in 2005 and is still going this year. It's for a large Canadian children's charity, KRG Children's Charities, that had really lent its name to a tax structure in 2005, 2006 with many high net worth individuals across Canada, including partners in my firm, my old firm, judges, accountancy firms. But anyway, there was these investments that went in, and I did the paperwork on that when we set it up for KRG, so the creditor, the number one creditor in the stack of that transaction. And almost immediately after doing the second year, the second cycle of that funding, there was a fraud by the principal of the syndicate that did this tax structure, an international tax structure that had international funds coming in. And then we went down the road, 13 years of litigation to collect our loan, appointed a receiver. We had a number of things coming in, but every single year we were able to produce 7 figures for the charity in collections that went to the children that benefited with autism. There's actually, I take great pride. My son was at Sick Kids Hospital a couple of years ago, and I saw a plaque on the wall there from the charity I was acting for. And the money had gone to Sick Kids, but there was a $286 million restitution order in the States. It was a Canadian that created the fraud. He was caught in a friend's basement in Germany and extradited to the States, and was in jail, got out of jail last year. And we are the number one creditor, and we've been able to collect a huge amount of money out of that cross-border receivership. So there was another receiver in the States, CFTC, and I never had a CFTC receivership before, where I was working with them to get the money through for distributions across border. But we ended up, our client's position, we ended up getting close to $30 billion in over 13 years. And then the structures were sold off, are in the process of being restructured this year, but we put an end to the receivership this year, and every single year we did a distribution to the charity. So for me, it involves annual visits in front of Mr. Justice Morawitz and other members of the commercial bench to authorize the release of funds. But every single year around this time of year, we'd make a distribution. I'd go into Christmas and the holiday season feeling really good about that file. So we're continuing to work on it. So that was from 2005. So that's, we're now 16 years into it. And it's been one of those things.
Feel good stories, right, Maurice? That's kind of like one of the things that makes you feel good about doing what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the finance world, you close a deal, you fund, you don't really feel like you've changed the world, right? You got your deal, maybe you get your bonus at the end of the year, you got your yield on the matter, whatever it is, you take your shares. Very, very few files in the insolvency world you come out where there is an actual true good result at the end of that goes on for an extended period of time. So that's why I picked that one. I just think it's, I think it's just a very good
clear good guy and a clear bad guy. So this one's gonna, you know, my favorite one, which is probably means it's gonna be your least favorite one. But who would you pinpoint as your biggest adversary over the years, whether they're still currently working or, you know, whether they've retired? You know, can you pinpoint someone that's being a pain in your side? And then it could be that you respect them, or vice versa, or you know, or not respect them. But who would that person be that sticks out?
There's one individual, and he's very respected, really, really good lawyer. About my year of call, David Byers at Steichman's. He's very smart man, very good lawyer and what he does.
Great. That's great. Thanks, Maurice. Look, Maurice, let's wrap it up. It was great chatting with you today. We really appreciated your insights. Maybe you can let us know, do a little plug for your firm and how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. Yeah, Fogler Rubinoff, we're a business firm, mainly in Toronto, 2 lawyers in Ottawa that do patent work. You reach us here. We do real estate, commercial litigation, banking, and a large amount of M&A for private equity. So if any of those ring your bell, then give us a call.
That's perfect. Oh, can't hear you, Alon.
Sorry, I said, Maurice, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time.
Take care. Thank you very much.